10th, 2020. Have a roll call.
Missouri. Here. Basil.
Here.
Bailey.
Here.
Caparros.
Here.
Meyer. Here. Kraus.
Here.
We have the minutes from the July 13th meeting. Are there any changes or corrections? If not, there's our motion.
So moved.
The motion made, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any questions? Roll call.
Missouri. Yes. Basil.
Yeah.
Whalen.
Yes.
Caparros.
Abstain.
Meyer. Yes. Kraus.
Yes.
The clerk's report.
Total tax income receipts in the month of July was $213,932.90. And of course, we're still not getting any video game tax because of the closure due to COVID. That's it.
Anyone from the audience wish to address the board? With that, we have the quiet zone that we're still working on. We finally, or I am making phone calls to anybody and everybody I can as far as the upper echelons and find out what the heck is going on with it. They promised to get back to us. They promised to assign somebody else to it, and then we get nowhere. So the next step is to contact the Federal Railway Administration and complain, and also whoever the federal representative for transportation is, as far as our politicians, or whatever you want to call them. With that COVID, we know that there is and there has been a mask mandate, and the only thing that really has changed is the governor has enacted a law to allow, there is a crime now, I believe now, if you attack somebody who's trying to enforce no masks in their businesses. And then I also believe that also has a law to enforce the masks, period, of which, to my knowledge, it's all that's changed. Our numbers are continuing to go up. Last time I looked, we were at 72, 73. Yeah, usually Tuesdays and Fridays is when I understand Will County updates now. So tomorrow we should get it.
Well, it's IDPH, and they update it daily. I never look at Will County, I look at IDPH.
Yeah, okay. That's really about it with that.
73 since the onset, not like.
Since the onset.
Since the onset, yeah, the cumulative, so like.
No, but there's been about 30 since July 5th.
Yeah, it's gone up faster than it has before, but now, Marcy, would you agree?
It's
Seems like it's
tapering a
stabilized.
little,
Yeah.
although we just popped up another 2 cases, but it's slowing down a little
Slowing
bit.
down the increases, yeah. With that, trustee Missouri.
Okay, so we need to have a public hearing tonight to consider an annexation agreement, ordinance of annexation for 229 West Indiana Avenue, the 6.75 acres commonly known as Lane Western property. On that note, I would like to make a motion to open public hearing.
Motion made, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, any questions? Roll call.
Kraus.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Caparros.
Yes.
Whalen.
Abstain.
Basil.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the company has ended its lease on the property and the owners are selling. The property is zoned for business in the county and was occupied by Wheeling Well Works and later Lane Western. This property has been a materials yard for years. The petitioner has a contract on the property and wishes to annex the village instead of dealing with the county's rezoning process. The petitioner wishes to store trailers on the property for 6-month leases to over-the-road drivers. No more than 160 trailers would be on site at any one time, and typically only about 10% of his fleet would be on site being serviced for releasing. One of the outbuildings would be used for repairs and the main building for office space. He has a similar operation running in Des Plaines, Illinois, having 140 trailers for leasing. The petitioner is present to explain his business and answer any questions, if any of us have questions tonight. Anyone?
Anyone have any questions?
I actually have a question, since I think when we originally met, there was a discussion and I never saw it addressed again, I'm sure you guys handled it, but there was a question about that strip of Indiana Avenue between Route 1 and the entrance to the property, for the weight of the trucks. Is that a problem?
It's, according to the chief, no.
Any roadway in the state is now 80,000, unless otherwise posted. It used to be 73,280. So
Okay.
It was the length of the trucks we were concerned with.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
apparently if they're within 1 mile of a state route, if their business is within 1 mile, then
It's not a problem?
it's not applicable, is that correct?
yeah, it's a 65 on that roadway. It's 65 feet max. So if they got a sleeper or a trailer, that usually puts them over. But they have X amount of feet to gain access, so it should be all right. It's
I
just
know
the
it's
one turn.
something, Yeah, after the meeting ended, it was something that, you know, we brought up and it was like, oh, wait a minute, did we think about that one? So,
Yeah, thank you. That's a good catch.
Any other questions?
I have a question, but I talked to the chief about this, so you did have a request, correct? That's not in here?
The cameras,
Yes.
Joby. Yeah, so, a lot of new businesses, you know, that are coming here, we would request that they'd have a couple of cameras on the entrances and exits, and possibly the building itself, just to help with any type of thefts of the cargo trailers. I know there's not supposed to have a lot of actual material or cargo in the trailers, but the trailers themselves, and, that would be our request.
Also, yeah, I mentioned last time in July when we had a hearing that I will do surveillance on my own, so we will do. I mean, probably we'll have between 7 and 10 cameras on the property, so that's okay with us.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Okay, so when we had the public hearing pertaining to the rezoning and special use permit with the PZC on July 23rd, the petitioner did agree that the conditions of the special use would be as follows. It would be limited to 160 trailers stored on site, no stacking of any containers, no transfer of freight permitted on the property. Operations will be limited from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The special use applies to the petitioner only and cannot be transferred to any other business or owner of the property. Truck engine idling will be limited to 30 minutes. Photometric assessment required to be approved by the village for any yard lighting and shall not impede upon adjoining properties. Staging of trucks shall not block Indiana Avenue at any time or be permitted in the county's right of way. And as the petitioner just said, he would have video cameras and surveillance. I mean, it appears to be appropriate for the property in question. It's currently barriered from the residential to the west, south, and east. Also, the petitioner could have also gone to the county for the proper permits if he chose to do so. The village does have water and sewer adjoining the property, and the petitioner will contact to these utilities at a future date when the lifespan of his current private facilities expire. We have enclosed the proposed annexation agreement and supporting information. Is there any other questions?
Do you plan on having about 4 or 5 employees there? Is that what your plan is?
Yes, yes, sir.
Is it owner operators then that lease the trailers from you, or is it are they employees, or?
No.
It doesn't matter to me, I'm just kinda curious, to be honest.
The other companies, other transportation companies in Chicago area, so we do lease to our owner operators, but they park on their own yard, so they don't park on our yard.
And when we had the public hearing, some residents did come out, and it seems like they were all okay with at the end of it, that it was appropriate to them, what was decided. They seemed like they were settled enough and they were okay with this business. So on that note, if no one has any other questions, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any questions? Roll call.
Missouri,
Yes.
Basil,
Yeah.
Whaling,
Abstain.
Caprows,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
So I'd like to now consider an ordinance authorizing the execution of the annexation agreement for 229 West Indiana Avenue.
1330. Is that the motion?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Caprows,
Yes.
Whaling,
Abstain.
Basil,
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes. And then I would like to consider an ordinance annexing 229 West Indiana Avenue.
1331.
So I make a motion to consider an ordinance for 1331, annexing 229 West Indiana Avenue.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Any questions? Roll call.
Missouri,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Whaling,
Abstain.
Caprows.
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
And I'd like to consider an ordinance rezoning 229 West Indiana Avenue from AG1 agricultural to I1 limited industrial with the special use permit for a freight terminal subject to 8 conditions as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. ordinance number 1532.
Yeah, would it now be 9 because I believe you added the cameras?
Um, Gotcha,
And that's your motion?
yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Any questions? Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Capros.
Yes.
Whalen,
Abstain.
Basil,
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Welcome and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
guys.
It's all done, I'll take care of the reporting. So,
Excellent.
go ahead and close.
You don't have to stay if you don't want.
Go home,
Welcome to
before it gets
stay.
dark, there's gonna be no streetlights, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good idea.
All right, so the next thing is I'd like to consider a motion authorizing, wait a minute. Consider a motion authorizing the demolition of a structure due to unsafe conditions at 752 Penfield Street. I'd like to open a discussion on this before we consider. Did we get new pictures of this property?
Gotta make a motion, there's gotta be a motion to have discussion.
Okay, I make a motion to have discussion on item 10 for the motion authorizing the demolition of the structure due to unsafe conditions at 752 Penfield.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Roll call.
Is there any discussion or?
Yeah, Ann, I'm sorry. She made a motion. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Make a motion to have discussion.
Yes, we have discussion. Questions, discussion now. There was a motion on the floor, there was a second, we can do discussion. Okay, discussion. Okay, as far as we know of, they did have a masonry person out there at the brick. Most of the urgent repairs that had to be done, as far as the comment and the brickwork, has been done. The only thing that we are aware of that has not been done is there was a mention made about putting doors and windows in. To our knowledge, that has not been done with it as of today's date. And we have not had heard from her today, right?
That's correct. The plywood, there are some holes in the plywood that could allow varmints to go into, but that is a very minor repair compared to what they spent to get the brick secured. It's structurally sound right now. That doesn't mean a varmint can't get in there, but the building is structurally sound. So, I don't know. They're paying taxes on the building, it's vacant. I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
Is there
and
any timeline for correcting the varmint issue? Or
We
the boards,
could-
have you given them any specific timeline for that portion of it?
I would suggest that we write them another letter from the attorney and say, look, you still gotta fix these plywood and the windows.
Was there any concern with any of the outbuildings?
That wasn't part of our letter. It was a separate issue at one time.
And some of them, I believe, were torn down,
That's correct.
and I think a couple of them were left. So that was worked out as well,
Okay, so those are all secured and safe.
to our knowledge, without going back out there.
We'd have to look. I don't know about the outbuildings.
So this building is in a position now where we wouldn't have to put it into demolition per se.
That is my opinion, that's only my opinion, that at this particular point in time, we're past that. I would have to agree with Bob to send another letter to make sure that these windows and doors get put in. My point was that if these windows and doors get put in, from the outside, you can't really tell the building is untenable, you know what I mean? And then we would take another look at the outfall structures that you're talking about, the outfall structures, and then we could deal with that as well. And if you want, send a letter and we can put it back on the agenda if necessary for next week.
They seem to appreciate specific timelines.
Yeah,
This was good. I mean, the fact that he had to hire somebody to go over there and actually do the work, they had to spend some money.
Oh, I saw some of it being done.
Yeah.
yeah,
Now, a board-up service would be the way to go to secure the building with the doors and the windows. That's a lot cheaper than demolishing the building. We ended up having to do a board-up service.
Yeah, we're trying to get away from that appearance. And if they put doors and windows in, doesn't that, they can put plexiglass in with 1x2s. And they could look presentable so that the building at least appears to be occupied. You know, you can't see on the inside. That's what we're trying to get away from. All that work that was done on downtown, the old downtown area, now this is probably almost the last building. There was one more that still has to be worked on, and it is being worked on as far as I know.
yeah. I I just think that they've made a good step forward. And I think everyone here knows what I feel about demoing that building, because I think it's one of those buildings that is like the history of the town. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see it there. I'm hoping that they continue.
I think again, the way to make sure that they continue, we're gonna have to keep sending in letters and put it back on the agenda if necessary.
I would, in my opinion, I would like to table it and send letters and see if they want to continue fixing the building, because I'm not a fan of demolishing it if we can avoid that.
I guess my question is, as a board, what's our end goal that we want?
I'm sorry.
As a board, what's our end goal here? I mean, is it just to put up doors and windows so it looks like it's not empty? Is it just to get it structurally secure and sound so no one's breaking in? Yeah,
It's occupied.
I think it's all of the above.
perfect.
Well, the goal is, as they make improvements, maybe they will stir some interest in the building. Like I mentioned, probably now a year ago, one member of the family finally admitted that he would be willing to sell it. And now they've gone this far to fix it, so I think the answer is all of the above.
Yeah, I think we need to send a letter with a list, of things and, timeline as far as when they, I don't know what would be fair.
Did our previous letter not address all this?
The previous letter addressed the windows and doors, not the outbuildings.
Well, I don't know what the outbuildings are like, I'm just asking. I
We
mean,
had a
that's
complaint.
gotta be a concern too, you gotta make sure that those
Yeah,
are.
we had a complaint a year ago that there were raccoons living in one of the outbuildings, and Mike Bookmar did address that issue. But what the condition of those buildings are, who knows?
Those buildings have been up since the 70s, I bet. Those outbuildings.
Those little outbuildings.
That was a little, I don't know if you guys know this, but there was a video rental in one of them.
Oh, really?
Arts and crafts, and, so you could walk back there and, visit these shops. People would have their own little shops.
Last blockbuster in existence.
But I'm talking 70s when you still
Along
had.
with Total Mat.
Can I rewind?
I should hope with the amount of money they've spent to make repairs so far that they want to continue to work on it and not see us just tear it down.
I mean, I'm fine sending a letter just to remind them of the timelines that had previously been stated by the attorneys with the doors and windows or whatever, and then how we're gonna word it for the outbuildings. I mean, like trustee Kapoor said, if they're fine, but I personally don't know what the conditions are.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion to table? If you make a motion now to table, my understanding is the tabling it, would then put it back on the agenda for next meeting.
What about the first motion that there was no roll call?
Table it. Make a motion to table that.
The first motion that was already made by the board where there was no roll call.
Correct. You would table it now. Or you want to withdraw it.
I withdraw the motion.
You seconded it.
I'll withdraw.
Takes care of that. Okay, I believe,
So are we tabling it, or we do a
yeah,
motion to table?
she would throw the motion.
So,
But the motion was to have discussion regarding demolition, not regarding tabling it.
Okay, there is no motion on the table right now for anything. Ends right
So
here.
we're just moving on, okay, that's what I want to clarify.
Trustee Bader.
All right, treasurer's report, Bob, you doing
Yeah, it's located in the middle of your packet. General fund, compared to last year, is up 23,000, which is good. Overall corporate revenue is down about 67,000. Overall revenue across all funds, we're down about 40,000 from last year at this time. That's what I always watch where we're at financially. But all accounts are in good order, and I believe she included a list of automatic payments that were made there, and that would also be part of your motion approving those automatic payments. I don't believe there was anything out of the ordinary.
Any questions on the
treasurer's report? With that, I'd like to make a motion approving the treasurer's report and the report of financial activities for the prior month.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second, any questions? Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Capros,
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Lizard,
Yes.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but the power's on.
All right.
Correct.
Thank you, Jesus, any gas. Really bad.
All right, the variance report for the preceding month are enclosed for your review. Any questions or concerns? If not, the bills for the prior month, everyone got those in front of them. Iris Corporation for $5,426.40, that's with added. Constellation Energy for $61.80. County of Will for $18,440.32. Funk's Trailer for $168. ILMO Products for $99. Metro Power for $26,817. Motorola Starcom for $408. Pavement Systems for $77,994. Petty Cash for $71.55. Skiddich for $11,950. USA Blue Book for $599.54. And this one, the well, was that highlighted? No. Any questions? Was it was highlighted, wasn't it? The wells I must have missed. I'm getting fogged up here.
I think we're all followed up.
No, I got them. All right. Any questions? If not, I'd like to approve the bills for the prior month for $272,396.91.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, any questions? Roll call.
Lizard,
Yes.
Basil,
Yeah.
Whaling,
Yeah.
Capros.
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
All right, consider ordinance adopting a sexual harassment policy for all elected and appointed officials and all employees of the village of Beecher. This new ordinance is required by the state law and is no different than the current policy already in place, adopted by resolution. The big difference is that every employee, appointed official, and elected official has to be trained on the state law and provide the village clerk with an acknowledgement from stating that they have read the policy and took the training. This work needs to be completed by December 30th, 2020. The first step is passing the ordinance. The village staff will then set up a procedure for taking the training and signing the forms later this month. We will probably do this at an upcoming board meeting, but many of the commissions are not meeting right now, so we will set up a virtual version of the direct mail for them to complete. Please see enclosed material. So I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance number 1333, adopting sexual harassment policy for all elected and appointed officials and all employees of the village of Beecher.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, questions? Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Capros.
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Lizard,
Yes.
All right, consider an ordinance amending the code for pertaining to hotel motel taxes. This rewrite confirms that the state law and includes the temporary rental of housing for less than 30 days, such as Airbnb. I'm all fogged up here. We do not believe we are currently have any of these in the village, but they are required to report and pay local taxes if there are. There may be in the future as well. It is recommended that the ordinance be approved. So So I'd like to make a motion approving ordinance 1334, amending the code pertaining to hotel motel taxes.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Move to second, any questions? Roll call.
Missouri,
Yes.
Basil?
Yes.
Whaling?
Yes.
LaCrose?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
All right, consider a motion authorizing expenditures of up to $183,000 in grant funding for COVID-related pandemic response. The village has received a $183,000 federal allotment to reimburse the village for any COVID-related expenses which have occurred or will occur outside of the current budget up to December 30th, 2020. Since this is a reimbursement program, the village has to spend the money first and then apply for the reimbursement. We believe the best approach to this rapidly changing environment is to have the board approve the general motion for COVID-related spending and creating a line item in the budget where all such charges will be expensed in the general fund. A revenue line item will also be added called CARES grant. So when the reimbursement funds arrive, they will be placed into this revenue line item. At the end of the fiscal year, we can then pass a supplementary appropriation for both the revenue and the expense. We anticipate more revenue than expense since we will be seeking reimbursement for items we have already paid for. The motion above will allow us to proceed with the purchase of services and items and utilizing this funding. Here is a list of identified so far with not to exceed pricing. 2 portable digital message boards for $46,000. 16 laptops with software, village board and department heads, $32,000. Cloud-based Locus software upgrade, including Windows 10, $25,000. Cancellation fee for fireworks, $15,000. Tom Beck, SRO reimbursement to school district, $18,000. Public Works furlough for 2 weeks, total $20,000. Quarantine costs for Drew and Dakota,
Okay. Don't say the names.
oh, never mind. Quarantine costs, $10,000. 30% local match for FEMA funds, PPE and Decon, $15,000. Fall newsletter with COVID-related articles, $2,000, totaling $183,000. Staff intends to identify as close to the $183,000 as we can take advantage of this opportunity. This motion will help us get the ball rolling since we have received some of this equipment and used for a COVID-related matter before getting reimbursed, and the deadline is December 30th.
Another example is, we don't know if we can get the cloud-based software applicable to COVID. So an option we're looking at in lieu of that would be touchless doors on the front of City Hall. So they'd be like scissor doors that would open and close by an electric eye during the workday, and then we would shut them off at the end of the day, but then no one would have to touch the door handles coming and going from City Hall. So that would be definitely a COVID-related expense that we could do and improve the front of the village hall, because these doors are really old anyway. So that's just an example. We're looking for the authority from you guys to spend this $183 for COVID-related expenses. We've talked to the auditors, they've concurred that this is probably the best way to go. And when they audit the books next year, they'll be looking for that motion to say, okay, that was, the authority was granted to proceed. There is one risk involved, it's a small risk, but the county has the control of the money. And they could decide that whatever we submit may not be eligible. So there's a webinar coming up Wednesday morning on it. They're going to be pretty loose with approving this money. It's going to be hard to spend $183 grand, it really is.
Just for a comment, I'm sure all of you figured out that the names were placed on the agenda by mistake, and somehow you printed it out before we corrected it.
Oh, yeah, I'm reading from the one that I printed out, sorry.
I have a question. So this attachment for Will County is basically the guidelines, right?
Correct.
So how does $15,000 for fireworks count in that? I mean, one of them just says all services must be received within this period. So we're not gonna have fireworks within that period.
Well, fine, well, that's why I said, this is a fluid thing. Once I find out what's gonna be allowed and not allowed, it's gonna be a lot easier, you know?
Would it count because we had to cancel fireworks due to COVID and they have a cancellation fee, so could that cancel each other
That's
out
correct.
since we had to do it because of COVID?
We prevented a mass gathering as a result.
Did they lose that money, or is it being applied to next year's?
It's being applied to next year's.
So they didn't lose it.
No, but if you have another way of finding the way to spend the money, I'm all yours, because
Well,
it doesn't matter.
that's why I'm asking what qualifies, because, I mean, when we did the budget, we cut over $40,000 worth of police part-time and overtime out. I know some of it was including the 4th of July, which is a chunk of some of that part-time and overtime. And we've been lucky with what's going on in our town so far, but
If
there's
the
another
chief can
kickoff.
justify that the use of part-time and overtime was for COVID-related matters, we would get reimbursed for that, absolutely. But it'd have to be reimbursed, it wouldn't be something we could, they're not allowing us to use the money for lost revenue, that's a no-no.
So if we're gonna be able to apply that money to next year, just out of curiosity, any idea what these scissor doors may cost?
We haven't even looked into that yet, don't know.
Yeah, it'll be pricey.
Mhm.
We'll eat up a lot of that.
So where does the final list with this lie? At a different board meeting, are we authorizing
We were
these
told,
items?
we were told that we have to apply within 30 days.
Okay, well, so, let me break this down a little easier. If we have basically approved this, that gives us the authorization to create the line items, and then the line items are there to do an expense. Any expense over X amount of dollars has to be approved by the board before.
Then I would
It's-
suggest we have 2 meetings a month, because we gotta spend this money really quickly. The county's giving us 4 weeks to apply for funding. It's ridiculous, so we probably need a second meeting in August, because I can't give you that list right now, I can't do it. You know, until I see this webinar on Wednesday, there's a 30-day clock after that webinar. And the next meeting is the second Monday in September, which would be close to the 30 days. So, I don't know, if you guys want to form a committee and let the committee approve the bills, that would be fine too. If you don't trust us to do it, then appoint a committee that would have that authority. It's fine with me. Or this whole board would have to meet, probably in the next 2 weeks.
I'd be fine if the finance committee did it.
There you go.
Let the finance committee approve it and,
Bring it to the board.
yeah, bring it to the board.
Yeah, no problem.
Will the entire
Yeah.
finance committee be available?
Till the end of the month.
The both of us?
It'd be fine.
Well, if Frank's gone, it would be just Marcy, then I would assume.
Then I would be the entire finance committee.
Tell you what,
I'm right.
if someone happens not to be here by that time, we'll pick another replacement, so there's 2 people on that committee.
Or you call us emergency second meeting of the month if you have to. You know. We'll figure it out.
All right. I'd like to consider a motion authorizing expenditures of up to $183,000 in grant funding for COVID-related pandemic response
To be approved by the finance committee.
to be approved by the finance committee.
Second.
There's a motion made and there is a second. Any questions? Roll call.
Does this include the motion to create the line item in the budget, the line items in the budget, or is that a separate motion?
Should be included with the approval of the finance.
And who made the motion and seconded?
Yeah, I second it.
You seconded,
I
and
made it.
you made it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Kraus?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Caprows?
Yes.
Whaling?
Yes.
Basil?
Yes.
Missouri?
Yes.
And that ends my report.
Thank you, trustee Crowe.
Thank you. Consider an intergovernmental agreement with Will County pertaining to the use of its 800 megahertz radio system for EMA and mutual aid operations. The EMA has been given a set of radios to be used on the Will County radio system for communication, but needs an intergovernmental agreement with the county in order to legally use radios under the county's license with the FCC. We had this agreement with the old radio system, and it has since been replaced, and a new agreement is needed. Any questions? Make a motion. Is it you sign it? For the mayor or his designee to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Will County pertaining to the use of its 800 megahertz radio system for EMA and mutual aid operations.
Motion on the floor, is there a second? There's a second, any questions? Roll call.
Missouri,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Whaling,
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes. Consider an intergovernmental agreement with the Will County Animal Control for fees for services rendered for the coming 3 years. We use animal control on an as-need basis, and when we do, these fees, there are the fees that apply. The last 3 years, we used them only once for a rabid skunk terrorizing a neighborhood. We do not use them often, but what we do is needed. Any questions? Does the county residents pay for this also, or is it just?
No, if you're in a
residents'
municipality,
house?
the county charges you. It's the same as warrants and court and everything else. I don't understand. We pay the same taxes to the county as an unincorporated resident, but we end up paying these fees. But I can't argue about it when I got a rabid skunk terrorizing the neighborhood, you know? There's really no one else that can do that.
Other farmers. So I make a motion to enter into intergovernmental agreement with Will County Animal Control for fees for services rendered for the coming years.
Motion on the floor, is there a second? There is a second, any questions?
And this is just, I mean, I know that this problem was long past, and I think we had it resolved, but this will also be an agreement, so that way there's no issues if someone calls Will County, they're not gonna say, well, you need to call the police, because we don't handle this, we had a problem previously. But we fixed that before, right? We fixed the agreement, so is this replacing that?
The
agreement?
resident
I guess is
cannot
my
call.
question.
The resident cannot call animal control and get the service. The call has to come from the
So
police
it has to
department.
come to the police department,
Yes.
police department calls, okay.
Yeah, the resident can't call animal control, they gotta go through the police
I think
before.
that might have been
animal
what the debacle was before, but I just wanted to kind of clarify that for my own,
That might be a newsletter, okay.
yeah.
Right, there was a motion made, and there was a second, right?
Yes.
Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Basil.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
That concludes our report.
Consider a motion authorizing final payment to IHC in the amount of $657,304.98 for the completion of the Beecher wastewater treatment plant project. That, of course, would be upon receipt of IEPA loan funds. So I will go ahead and make a motion authorizing final payment to IHC in the amount of $657,304.98 for the completion of the Beecher wastewater treatment plant project upon receipt of IEPA funds.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, any questions?
Just under notes for the minutes, we approved this on June 8th, but since we have an amended loan, we are going to reauthorize the invoice to be paid.
Roll call.
Missouri,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
You want me to hold off on item 21? till
Yes.
New business, you said?
Yes, we'll do it at the end. And we have any old business to come before the board?
Letter from Walt, anything happen?
No.
Not even a response?
Right?
Nope.
Can we then request a meeting?
Sure.
I mean, they've already ignored us, so probably won't, but, I mean, actually request a meeting for you guys to sit down with them.
Okay, good idea.
And we got grocery prices an all-time high, and they applied for a $2 to $5 million PPP loan, so I think for 30-some thousand that we're asking to help our residents out is gonna be a killer.
Okay. Any new business coming before the board?
Yeah.
Yes. I'd like to just kind of mention, I know when I first got elected, it was something I wanted to do, and I made small mentions of it before, but since COVID and since we all had the stay-at-home order and we don't know what the fall is gonna bring, it's kind of been something I've been thinking about a lot more lately. I kind of want to discuss the potential of putting together like a Village of Beecher senior check-in program. It's completely voluntary to the seniors and the disabled, or maybe you have an elderly parent or somebody living with you and you work all day, where they sign up for it, it doesn't cost anything. They designate a day that they want a phone call, just, you know, we call them, we check in, yeah, I'm okay. If, you know, they don't answer and we attempt twice, then maybe like the community policing officer, EMA, or someone who's available can just go do a well-being check and knock on the door. If they, you know, don't answer that even, then perhaps the emergency contact, we could just contact them and say, hey, you know, we called, they didn't answer, we did knock on the door, they didn't answer, you know, would you like to go check on your loved one, or whatever. But it's completely voluntary. They can decide if they want to sign up for it. Like, we could have a registration form and a list of certain people that want to do it. If nobody wants to do it, no harm, no foul, because it's not gonna cost us anything. But it's something there for like peace of mind. And it's just something that's been weighing on me with, when we were all shut in. And now we don't know what's gonna happen in the fall. So I wanted to bring that up and see what you guys think.
Lee, don't we have something for like winter weather, I've brought up in the past where
Yes.
snowing or inclement weather?
Or
checking on
excessive heat,
people?
yeah,
Do we have a list like that
we do. It could be revitalized, it's,
to add?
yeah, a lot of people have changed, so it might not be a bad idea to get it back
Yeah,
out
we
there.
don't have like the senior housing yet. I mean, we're interested, I know we're putting feelers out there, but it's just something I've always thought about, and I think it would be a good idea. And again, residents don't have to sign up for it, it's up to them, but at least we have it available if they wanted to use that service.
I can make a suggestion. Try to coordinate with the post office. The post office, most of the offices I've ever worked at, our carriers always did that, checked on the elderly. So I mean, if that's something you can, I mean, people are not picking up their mail out of the PO box or out of their boxes, they can contact the police or EMA. I mean, something you might want to coordinate with the post
Yeah,
office.
like we can have a group effort going on with
Right.
it. And like I said, there may be people that are not interested, but there may be some residents that might really like to have this on the back burner to make them feel better, or their family to feel better.
Okay, this would fall under public safety, so I'll have the chief and the public safety committee discuss it, see if we need to enhance what we are further doing.
Thank you.
With that,
I got something else for new business.
okay.
So, I was gonna make a request that, we're still looking at doing one meeting a month. And with everything that's going on, with COVID, and, a few board members have children in the school district, and the school district meeting the same night as us, I'm wondering if everybody would be willing to move our meetings, if it's gonna be once a month, to the third Monday of the month, rather than the second or the fourth. I spoke with Bob, it would still work with paying the bills and stuff, but that would free us up to get face-to-face communication from the school district as what's happening with our children. It would also, which I've always hated the fact that we meet the same night, but I can get through it, but right now with things constantly changing and everything going on, with the kids in school and how they're gonna be receiving information and stuff like that, I know I personally would like to be attending these meetings. Thankfully tonight theirs got canceled, because I even had discussions about trying to get more information about the plan of reopening to make decisions for my own family as to what I'm gonna do with my children. And I think if we could just do it till the end of December, just kind of for right now, if we could meet the third Monday of the month, have our one meeting a month, obviously it'd still be open if there was any emergency, the mayor could always, or if more than one trustee had, you know, something that needed to come before the board. I think the mayor's always been very accommodating to getting us together if need be, but if we could just switch that, I think it'd be a big help, especially to me. I know there's a couple other, you know, parents with students in the district on the board.
And if I can add to that, I was going to bring up the fact that I was considering asking you if we'd stay at one meeting a month, at least till the end of the year, under the current circumstances, sort of fall fell into what trustee Flores was asking for.
Okay, that's no problem with me.
The only conflict there would be is the chamber, but the chamber's not meeting for the rest of the year anyway, so.
Right.
I see this going into the spring, so we could probably continue this process, but we'll discuss it more.
Yeah, I mean, if we could just
December.
carry this through our December meeting where we
Yeah.
typically only have one, you know, we could take it up again, you know, obviously a couple months prior to the start of the new year, but if we could at least just get us through the new year, I think the next couple of months, there'll be a lot of information coming out at those school board meetings that'd be, you know, pretty relevant.
You know when they rescheduled the meeting, John?
There's
Wednesday.
Wednesday, it's a Wednesday
It's
night.
gonna be Wednesday night?
Yeah, which is definitely helpful, but, I mean, we all know we've addressed it, we've asked them about moving it before, and, I mean, there's no bend there. The school district's pretty adamant about staying on their meeting night, which is the same as ours.
Yeah, I believe the quote was, well, can't they move theirs?
Yeah, but, I mean, at least, you know, that's neither here nor there. If we can at least get through this trying of a time during this pandemic, that I think it'd be helpful, and, I mean,
And note too, in October, we have to meet on a Tuesday night, anyway, because of Columbus Day, and then you have Veterans Day, second Monday in November. So this takes care of that, all those problems, you just meet the third one.
And with enough notice, the only one I might have is September, because we have a doctor on Mondays now. So I coordinated every other Monday to make sure it was not on board meeting nights. So I might have to go and do a little rescheduling. But it'll just be, I think it should only hit one in September, because the first one we were gonna do was on Labor Day, we weren't gonna do it anyhow. So I should be able to fix that second one to make it happen, or I might, you know, be later miss one, but otherwise I can make it work too.
And Jeanette, are we okay with the bills?
Yes.
Get it figured out?
Yes.
Dennis, how about that? Make it a forward motion.
That's not on the agenda.
That's right, I'm sorry.
I believe you can change the date and time of your meetings without it being on the agenda, correct, Jeanette?
I don't know.
I think you can.
I can't answer that right offhand.
I think you can. This board can, without it being on the agenda, change the date and time of their meeting.
Let it go for now, we'll figure out. But we know what we wanna do.
Okay.
Okay, with that, executive session.
I'll make a motion to request, closed session to discuss a collective bargaining agreement with IUOE Local 399.
And I just make no comment, we do not expect to do any business thereafter.
Correct.
Okay, the motion on the floor, is there a second? Is there a second, any questions? Roll call.
Kraus?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Whaling?
Yeah.
Hazel?
Yeah.
Dessert?
Yes.
You can shut the doors, but you can stay, chief, you don't have to leave.